We have discussed about two of the methods in the object class, toString and equals. ToString when we use toString means if you want to convert object content into a string content, we customize format. Then we go for toString. If you want to compare two objects based on the content of the objects, then we override the equals method for the specific class. And the third method that we are going to discuss is hash code method. Public int hash code. The hash code method returns the integer format of the address of the object in the heap. The hash code method in the object class. The hash code method in the object class returns the address of the object in the heap, which is in integer format. And the value returned by hash code method is said to be a hash value. The value returned by the hash code method is said to be a hash value. Okay? Then the hash value generated by the hash code method is address based by default. By default, the object class hash code method. By default, the object class hash code method will generate the hash value based on the address. The hash value generated by the object class hash code method will be based on the address. The hash value generated by the hash code method of the object class will be based on the address. So, let's see how the hash code method will be and what it returns. Now, let me make use of the object class hash codes. Now, since the object class hash code method generates the hash value based on the address, the object class hash code method generates the hash value based on the address. So, now these two system.out.println will give the same value or different value? Different value, just because the hash code generates the hash value and the hash value is generated, okay, based on the address of the object, but the address of the object is different for these two objects. For these two objects the address is different. So Just compile. Let me go to the classes. See, are these values the same or different? Different. Just because they are pointing to different objects. And the hash code method in the object class will generate the hash value based on the address of the object. So now will it generate the same hash code for this is two executions or the different hash code? Will it generate the same hash code or different hash code? Same? What do you think it is same? Both P1 and P2 are pointing to same object. If they are pointing to the same object, definitely the hash code value also will be the same. If the object is changing, then our hash code value will change. The object is the same, then the hash code value will also be the same. Understood? See, the hash code value will be dependent upon the address of the object by default. Just because by default the object class hash code method will be executed, and the object class hash code method will consider the address of the object. Now, if you want to generate a content based hash value rather than a address based hash value, if you want to generate a content based hash value, okay, rather than depending upon address based hash value, if you want to generate content based hash value, if you want to generate content based hash value, then we need to override the hash code method. Rather than depending upon the address based hash value, if you want to generate content based hash value, then we need to override the hash code method. Now, if you want to override the hash code method, the hash code method signature is this. This is the signature of the hash code method. Now, first, what we need to do is, while overriding the hash code method, we need to convert all the attributes into strings. We need to convert all the attributes into strings. Now, what is ID? What is ID? Integer. Now, I need to convert this ID into string. Now, how I can convert an integer into string means, first let me have int hash value which is 0. That's fine. Just I will return this hash value. The first thing is, I will convert how I can convert a integer into string means for every primitive there is a corresponding class in the library. See, for int there is a integer. If you want to go for double, there is double. Double dot of something id 10 dot 8 like this. For each and every primitive there is a corresponding class, and that class is called as wrapper class. We will discuss in depth regarding wrapper classes, but make it a note like for each and every primitive there is a corresponding class in the library, and that class is said to be a wrapper class. Here, some long back, I have gone to an interview. The interview is a pure North guy, I think Bihar or Uttar Pradesh. He asked me a question: do you know about wrapper classes? I don't know what is the wrapper class. He was asking about wrapper classes, but actually, actually he did not ask me like this. His intention was to ask me, do you know about wrappers? I was shocked, like why he is asking, do you know about wrappers? But his intention was to ask me about this wrapper classes. But I was confused with his pronunciation. Their pronunciation of English will be little bit different. That Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, their pronunciation will be little different. They will call class as a class, like that. And he called that wrapper as rapper. I was shocked, like why he is asking. I was like, could you please come once again? Rappers, man, rapper classes. Don't you know about that? He asked like that. So that kind of scenarios may arise in interviews, so don't be shocked. It happens sometimes. See, these wrapper classes have a lot more advantages, but right now let us stick to converting a primitive into string. How we can convert a primitive into string means using the corresponding wrapper class. Just integer dot toString of id will convert it into a string. Now this content is a string. Now that string's hash code will be derived. See, integer dot toString will return a string. The derived string's hash code method is executed. Why we are converting them into strings means, okay, already in string class hash code method is overridden. In string class already the hash code method is overridden to evaluate the hash value based on the content. So we convert them first into string and then we execute the hash code method. So it will give the content based hash value. So what I will do means, hash value plus something. So I am adding the generated hash value for id attribute to the existing hash value. So I am doing two things here. First, I am converting this into string. I am converting the value of id into string. This is the first thing. And then that converted string's hash code I am adding to the hash value. The converted string's hash code I am adding to the hash value. Like this, we need to convert all the attributes into strings. Now, do we need to convert name into string? Do we need to convert name into string? Yes or no? Is it required to convert name into string? No, just because already name is string. So, just what we do is, in case of name, since name is already a string, we need not to generate, we need not to again convert it to a string. If it is a non-string, then we need to convert into string, and that string's hash code method should be executed. And that hash value is to be added. But since name is already a string, directly we execute the hash code method. We need not to convert it into a string. Now,
Adding to the hash value 0.
hmm?
Why we are adding to the
Just because we are returning this hash value. Okay? And we return the hash value. This is how we need to override the hash code method. Just convert all the non-string attributes into string values and execute the hash code method of the generated string and add that to the hash value. So we are generating the hash value based on the content of the object. It's fine. Now let me try to compile this. Go to the classes. Execute this. Then what is the hash value generated? Is it the same for two P1 and P2? Yes, just because they are pointing to the same object. Now, what I'll do is, I'll make this to point to different objects. Now, P1 and P2, are they pointing to the same object? Yes or no? No, they are not pointing to the same object. They are pointing to different objects. Okay? Now, will be the hash code value will be the same or different? If P1 and P2 are pointing to different objects, hash code value, will it be the same or will it be different? Will it be same or different? Same. Just because we are generating the hash value based on the content of the object, and the content of the object is same for those two objects. So, if you see here, is it the same or different? Even though the objects are different, the hash value is the same. Just because we are evaluating the hash value based on the content of the object. And two objects are said to be identical objects only when equals method returns true and hash code method returns the same hash value. Two objects are said to be identical objects, or two objects are said to be duplicate objects only when equals method returns true and hash code method returns the same hash value. Okay? Understood? Now, so whenever we override equals method, okay, it's a standard way to override the hash code method also. Just because two objects are considered to be identical or duplicate, if equals method returns true and hash code method returns the same hash value. And we need to take care that whatever the attributes that are considered in equals method, what are the attributes that are considered in equals method? ID and name. The same set of attributes should be used to generate the hash value. It should not be deviated. Whatever the attributes that are considered in equals method, the same set of attributes should be used in generating the hash value. The same set of attributes should be used in generating the hash value. Otherwise, we may get the conflicting results or undesired results. So, whenever we override equals method with specific attributes, then we need to override the hash code method to generate a hash value from the specific set of attributes that we have used in the equals method. Okay? The same set of attributes we should use even in the hash code method also. Whatever the attributes that we use in the equals method, the same set of attributes should be used even in the hash code method also. Why this is used, why this hash value is used, that we can discuss in depth when we are discussing collection API. Okay? But right now just remember that hash code method returns an integer which is a hash value. To generate the hash value based on the content of the object, we override the hash code method. Okay, just make it note like that, and later on we'll discuss some more things about that. Okay, while we are discussing collections. Now, this is about the hash code method. The next method is clone. The next method is clone. The clone method is a protected method. Clone method is a protected method in the object class. Clone method is a protected method in the object class. Clone method is a protected method in the object class. And the written type of clone is object. Written type is object. Why this clone method is used means the clone method is used to create a duplicate object. See, we have already an object whose content is I have already an object whose content is ID as 100 and name as 30. See, I have this object and I want 10 objects same like this. I want some 10 objects same like this. 10 duplicate objects like this. ID equal to 100. name equal to I equal to 100, name equal to 100. Like this, I want certain duplicate objects. Any number of duplicates. Okay, for any number of duplicates, if you want to get a duplicate object, what we will do is, rather than creating these objects again and again, we create one object and we create a clone of the existing object. That means, we are creating a clone of the existing object, definitely a new object will be created with the same content. A new object will be created with the same content as the existing object. Clone method will create a new object with the content of the existing object. For any new object, using new operator, what it will do? It will create a new object with default values. But what clone method means? It will create a new object with the content of the existing object. Clone method will create a object with the content of the existing object. Just we can tell that clone method will create duplicate objects. Simply we can tell that clone method will create duplicate objects. Now let me see how the clone method should be used. Okay. Now let me try to use the clone method. The first thing is clone method is a protected method. If clone method is a protected method, then will it be compiled successfully? It's not private actually. It will not have a private access level, but the protected inherited member will behave like private, but it's not actually private. It will not get the private access level. Okay. And now will it be compiled? Yes. Yes. Perfect. That means you don't know about protected. It's a subclass, that's fine. Using the subclass reference, we are accessing the clone method. That's what I am telling. You are not 100% about protected. You don't remember the protected 100%. Just see again. Remember all the rules of protected. If possible, turn your notes and go for protected. And see all the rules of protected. And tell the answer. I'll give 2 minutes. That means nobody is remembering the things, just they are having the things in their notes. What will be, sir? Ready for interview, still turning the notes? What you are doing?
Public class cannot execute protected and other things.
Of other package. Public class?
cannot exit the protected method.
It's not like that. It's not like that. I did not tell that. I did not tell that public class should not access the protected member.
Actually, the department, school is having so there is no problem.
That's why I am asking. See all the things of protected.
They can, right? They're only class using subclass, otherwise you can do.
I told it clearly like the protected inherited member will behave like a private member of the subclass. Okay? The protected inherited member should not be used outside the boundaries of the subclass. I clearly told, many times I told that protected inherited member will behave like a private member in a way that it should not be used outside the boundaries of the subclass. Okay? Protected inherited member should not be used outside the boundaries of the subclass. Protected inherited member should not be used outside the boundaries of the subclass. What is it giving? Clone has a protected access level. Why it is giving means, let me see you. Let me have class A, class B. Alright? So, let me have a protected method. Test. Now, class A is there and class B is there. Class B extends to A. And there is a test method in the class A. Now, the protected method will be inherited to class B. Alright? So, now, let me see here. If I access new B dot test, I am accessing the protected inherited member which is inherited from class A to class B. Okay? Is it giving a compile error there? If I access new B dot test, is it giving a compile error? No. But why it is giving a compile error for clone? Because class A and class B are in the same package where the main method is there. But is clone method inherited from the same package or is it inherited from different package? Different package. From where clone method is inherited from? Java.lang package. If clone method is inherited from Java.lang package, it is different package. If it is inherited from different package, if a protected member is inherited from a different package, then the protected inherited member will act as a private member. I told that clearly while discussing protected. If it is inherited within the package and if it is used within the package, then it is not a compile error. But if a protected member is inherited from different package, then it should be used only within the boundaries of the subclass. Now, where clone method is there? Clone method is there in the object class. In which package object class is there? In which package object class is there? In Java.lang package. Is it the same package of person? No, it's different package. So, definitely the clone method which is inherited from the object class should be used within the boundaries of the person class. Just because protected inherited member from other packages will behave like a private member in the subclasses. Understood? Predicted inherited members from other packages will behave like private members in the subclasses. So we should not use the clone method outside the package. Sorry, outside the person class. So let me remove this A class and B class. Understood, right? If it is within the same package, there are no rules. But if it crosses the package, definitely it should be used only in the subclasses. Now we are using clone method of person class. We are using clone method of person class. But this clone method is inherited to person class from other package, which is java.lang.object. So it will behave like a private member of person class. It should not be used outside the person class. So since we are using it outside the person class, it's a compile time error. So let me use a clone method within the person class. Get cloned person. Sorry, it should not be static. Now will it be compiled successful? Now I will access get cloned person here. I am accessing get cloned person and I am accessing get cloned person here. Now will it be compiled successful? Will it be compiled successful or just see this person class and tell? Will it be compiled successful or is still there is any compile time error? Will it be compiled successful or still there is any compile time error? Huh? Clone method? I would not able to listen. Clone method? Exception? No. Not because of that. What's the return type of clone method? What's the return type of clone method? Object. Can we return object through return type person? Can we return object through return type person? No. If you are telling no, then how we can tell that it is compiled successful? See, the clone method return type is object, but here the return type is person. Can we return the object through person? Can we return the object through person? No. So what we need to do is type cache into person. Now what is 7? Huh? Sorry. Now everything is fine except this checked exception. The clone method execution will be a checked exception. I told like there is a checked exception named clone not supported exception. The class dot for name, the class dot for name has a chance to raise a Class not found exception. In the same way, the execution of clone method have a chance to raise a checked exception, which is clone not supported exception. The execution of clone method has a chance to raise exception, which is clone not supported exception. Clone not supported exception is a class in Java.lang package which represents a checked exception. The clone not supported is a checked exception. It's present in Java.lang package. And it is being raised by the clone method of the object class. It's being raised by the clone method of the object class. Since it is a checked exception, whether there is a chance of raising the exception or not, we should handle that. Okay? Whether there is a chance of raising the exception or not, we should handle that. What I'll do is, I'll go for I'll throw the clone not supported exception, okay, and I'll delegate the handling to the calling place. Okay, fine. Now what's the thing that we see? Okay, now will it be compiled? Here we are throwing clone not supported exception, and here we are enclosing this in try catch. Okay, it will be compiled very successful. Just because, let me do this. Let me consider that I am not enclosing this in try catch. Now in this scenario, will this be compiled successful? Will this be compiled successful if this is the case? No, just because this is throwing clone not supported exception, but here we are not handling it. So we should surround this with try catch. Okay. Now it will give the clone object. Okay, see the clone method have a chance to raise a checked exception, which is a clone not supported exception. Now it will be compiled successful. Go to the classes, execute it. Is it coming to the catch? Is coming to the catch? Yes. So what I'll do is, I'll see I'll make a condition like P2 is not equal to null. Okay, otherwise I'll print the value of P2. This will be simple. Just I'm printing the value of P1 and P2. Just here I'm printing the values of P1 and P2. Okay. What's the values of P1 and P2? What's the value of P1? 100 Ravi. What's the value of P2? Null. But Is the clone supported exception object created at the runtime? Yes or no? The clone supported exception object is created at the runtime. At the runtime, when the clone supported object will be created. Okay? Means why the clone supported exception object is created, and when the clone supported exception object will be created at the runtime means if the object that we are cloning is not clonable. If the object that we are cloning is not clonable, then the runtime environment will create an object to clone or supported exception. If the object that we are cloning is not clonable, if the object that we are cloning is not clonable, if the object that we are cloning is not clonable, then at the runtime environment will create an object to clone not supported exception. At the runtime environment will create an object to clone not supported exception.
Runtime comparing both of them. It's a checked exception.
See, the checked exception will be recognized by the compile time error, but the compile time or the compiler doesn't know. The compiler doesn't know whether there is an exact chance of raising a checked exception or not. See, the exception scenario will not be known to the compile time. The compile time knows that this is a checked exception, so that the compiler knows only one thing, whether it is a checked exception or not. If it is a checked exception, okay, then it will not allow you to compile. That's it. But whether there is a chance of raising the exception object or not, it depends upon the situation that is analyzed by the runtime environment. But the compiler knows if it is a checked exception, it should handle that. That's it. Okay? But the actual exception object, the actual exception scenario will be verified only at the runtime. Okay? So at the runtime environment will verify whether the person is clonable or not. If you use clone method on the person, here we are using the clone method on the person. This means here the person class object, right? This dot clone means here the person class. We are executing the clone method through person class reference. Now, if we are executing the clone method through a person class reference, then the runtime environment will verify whether the person is clonable or not. If the person is not clonable, then it will raise the exception. It will raise a clone not supported exception. By default, a class will not be clonable. By default, a class will not be clonable. If you want to make a class clonable, then okay, we need to implement that with the interface. Clonable. We need to implement that with the interface which is clonable. Clonable is the interface which is present in the library. If you want to make an object clonable, then the class should implement an interface clonable. At the runtime environment will verify whether the person is clonable or not, whether the person implements clonable interface or not. we are executing a clone method on a object, but the class doesn't implement clonable. An exception object will be created at the runtime. Now is person clonable? Yes. Now let me go to the SASE, compile this. Now is it creating a duplicate object? Yes or no? Yes, it's creating a duplicate object. Understood? It's how it will be. Okay. Now let me remove clonable. Now if I remove clonable, and execute this, we will go to cache block and it will execute 100 Ravi and null. Just because first it's P1, P2. P2 is null just because the cloned object is not created. The cloning process was not successful just because the class person is not clonable. So the exception, clone not supported exception is being raised. So if you want to execute the clone method or if you want to clone an object, definitely that class should be clonable. And how we can make a class clonable means just implementing the interface clonable which is there in java.lang package. And this clonable interface is a marker interface. Clonable interface is a marker interface. Clonable interface is a marker interface. Clonable is a marker interface. Okay? Now, when clonable is a marker interface, what is a marker interface? Okay? Marker is interface which doesn't have any methods. See, why in general we use interfaces? Why we use interfaces in general? That means to impose the rules to the subclasses means to implement abstraction. See how we can impose rules to the subclasses? If we have methods in the interface and we force the subclasses to implement those methods, then we can enforce the rules. What I'm telling is marker interface that doesn't have any methods. Okay, if they doesn't have any methods, why those interfaces are useful? Why the marker interfaces are useful means, okay, to enforce some licensing mechanism for some processes, to enforce the licensing mechanism for some secure processes, to enforce the licensing mechanism for secured processes, to enforce the licensing mechanism for secured processes. Now, cloning is a secured process. Okay, we cannot create a duplicate object of the existing object without some permission, without some license, or without some permission. So, we are getting that license from the runtime environment so that it should be clonable. By implementing with marker interface clonable, this person is getting a license from the runtime environment to be clonable. Understood? To implement that kind of licensing mechanism, we use the marker interfaces. Understood? And the marker interfaces has a special privilege in the JVM. Marker interfaces have a special privilege in the JVM. All the marker interfaces will be known to the JVM. And some of the examples of marker interfaces are clonable, serializable. These are some interfaces. They are marker interfaces. These marker interfaces have a special privilege and a special meaning with the JVM. So, cloning is allowed only if a class is clonable. Serialization is allowed only if the class is serializable. Like that, the marker interfaces will provide a kind of licensing mechanism to the entities, okay, to perform the secure processes. Serialization, cloning, all these are secure processes. So, to provide a kind of licensing mechanism for secure processes, okay, we use this marker interfaces. And we cannot create a custom marker interface. It's not possible to create a custom marker interface or a user-defined marker interface. It's not possible to create a custom or a user-defined marker interface. Just because marker interfaces has a special privilege or they are registered at the JVM. So, it's not possible for us to register an interface at the JVM. Marker interface has a special registration at the JVM and we don't have a privilege to register our entities at the JVM. So, it's not possible to create custom or user-defined marker interfaces. It's not possible to create a custom or a user-defined marker interface. Understood? Everybody? Now, the person is clonable. After cloning person, what I am doing is I am changing the value of P1. After cloning the person object, what I am doing is I am changing the value of the object that I have cloned. See, first the value of ID of person is 100 and the name of the person is Ravi. After cloning the object, what I am doing is I am changing the value from 100 to 200. Now, will it affect the cloned object or not? Understood my question? See, I have an object with ID 100 and name Ravi. That's fine. At that point, I have cloned that object and I have created a duplicate object. Now, if I change something in the parent object, will it be reflected in the child or will it be reflected in the cloned object? Understood my question? We have an object which is ID equal to 100 and name equal to Ravi. At this point, I have cloned this object, and I have created a new clone of this object. And then run it. This is a clone of the existing object. Now, what my question is, if I change this ID from 100 to 200, even will it be reflected or not? Is the child object reflected or not? Answer my question? Now, just tell the answer. Will it be reflected or not? I have a parent object, from parent object I have got a clone child object. Okay? If I got a clone child object, if I change something in the parent, will it have any impact on the child object or not?
It must have impact.
It
Must have impact.
must have an impact. You think that it will have impact, but you are not sure, right?
Because we are integrating the concept is we are creating an object that is so it must have.
Okay. But it's not true. Once a clone object is created at a particular point, a clone object is created at a particular point. That's the like at this status where the ID is 100 and name is 200. At this stage, I have created a clone object. So a new object will be created the same 100 and 100. But the clone object and the parent object doesn't have any relation. Just what we are doing is we are creating duplicate object. Even we are creating duplicate object, the created cloned object or the duplicate object and the corresponding parent object doesn't have any relation. This is a separate object. It's a separate object which is created based on the values of the existing object. That's it. It doesn't mean that whenever I change the value in the base object, it will be reflected in the child object. It will not be reflected. Just we are creating by clone, we are not doing anything in it. We are creating a new object with existing values. That's it. But once the cloning is over, there is no relation between the parent and child. There is no relation between the parent and child. If we make any changes in the parent, it will not be reflected in the child. Make any changes in the child, it will not be reflected in the parent. Okay? So, once the cloning is over, there is no relation between the parent and the child. So, I have changed the ID of the P1. P1 is the parent, right? Here P1 is the parent, right? Just because we are executing the clone person on the by using the reference P1. So P1 object will be a clone. So now if you see here, even after modification, the P1 value is changed from 100 to 200. But is the value P2 changed from 100 to 200? No, just because once the object is cloned, those two objects will be considered, okay, different objects. One object will not affect the another object. The parent changes will not be impact the child. The child changes will not impact the parent. Those two objects will be different objects. Okay? So, okay, this kind of clone is called as, okay, a shallow copy. Sorry, it's not a shallow copy, deep copy. See, the cloned objects are said to be copies. The cloned object, the created cloned object is said to be a copy. The created cloned object is said to be a copy. And the created copy is said to be a deep copy. The created copy is said to be a deep copy. The created copy is said to be a deep copy. The created copy is said to be a deep copy the created copy is said to be a deep copy if the changes in the parent doesn't reflect in the child and the changes in the child doesn't reflect in the parent. Then these two objects, the parent object and the child object, are said to be disjoint objects. Okay? Deep copy or disjoint copy is one and the same. We can call it as a deep copy or a disjoint copy. Just because changes in the parent are not reflected in the child, as well as the changes in the child are not reflected in the parent.
If you use the result, if you use the
Here even string is also a reference, right? String is also a reference. Okay? String is also a class. For string, object will be created and name will be a reference to string. When the clone copy will be a deep copy means, when a clone copy will be a deep copy means, okay, when a clone copy will be a deep copy means, when the attributes of that object or when the attributes of the class, okay, or members of the object, whatever it might be, if the members of the object, okay, are either primitives or strings or wrapper classes. Okay, the members of the object are one among the three, either they are primitives or strings or wrapper classes. If the members of the object are either primitives or strings or wrapper classes, then the generated copy will be definitely a deep copy. If the members of the object are either primitives or strings or wrapper classes, generated copy will be a deep copy. So the changes in the parent will not be reflected in the child, and the changes in the child will not be reflected in the parent.
no, sir, if we create
Wait for 10 minutes. Okay? This is called as a deep copy just because changes in the parent are not reflected in the child and the changes in the child are not reflected in the parent. When a copy is said to be a deep copy means when all the attributes are either primitives or strings or wrapper classes. When all the attributes are either primitives or strings or wrapper classes, then the generated copy will be a deep copy. Now, let me have a class address, and the class address has okay. In address we have street name and door number. this dot address equal to address. Okay, fine. Now in order to create a person, first we need to create a address. So let me create an address object here. Let me create a constructor in the address class. Okay. Now let me create a new address object. This is my door number, and let me create a person object by sending the address. Okay, now I am creating a person object. First what I am doing is I am creating a person with ID as 100, name as, sorry, first I am creating an address object. Whose street is Rachigoli and door number is 1, 2, 3, 4, something. Okay. Now again, after getting the address object, I am creating the person object. The person object with ID as 100, name as Ravi, and we have reference address. Now the address reference is going to this address object. Understand? How the address are here? ID is something and name is something, and the address object will be pointing to this address object. Okay? Now let me try to clone this object. Let me try to clone the person object. Okay, and after cloning the person object, I have changed the ID. And after cloning the person object, I have changed the name of the person from Ravi to Srinath. Okay, and I'm changing okay, Hingampalli. Okay, now in the toString method also, let me override even the address. Let me include the address in the toString method, and let me override the toString method of the address class. So I am trying to override the toString method of the address class just to return street name and door number. So just it will return in string format. Just let me keep comma. Street name, comma, door number. Okay. Now, just what I have done is I have created cloned object. Okay. First, I have created address object. I created a person object, and the person object internally is referring the address object. Okay. Person object has an attribute of type address. Do we have attribute of type address? No, right? Yes. We have an attribute of type address, and this address reference will be referring to the created address object. Okay. Now what I am doing is I am changing the ID and name and street name of the person. Now let us see whether changes in the parent are reflected in the child or not. Let's compile, go to the classes, execute this. Now, what is the address of, what is the street name of the P1 first person? It's Lingampalli, just because I have changed P1 dot address dot street name equal to something. But what is the address of, what is the street name of the second person? What is the street name of the second person? It's changed, alright? When I change something in the parent, is it reflected in the child? But is the ID and name reflected in the child? I have changed, what I have changed? I have changed ID of the parent, name of the parent, as well as the street name of the parent. But is the ID and name reflected in the child? Is the ID and name, is the change of ID and name impacted the child? But is the street name of the parent impacted the child? Is the street name of the parent impacted the child? Yes, just because when we change something in the parent, it is reflected in the child. Why it is and how it will be, that will be explained. Understood, right? If we have either primitives or wrapper classes or strings, okay, definitely a new copy will be created. Okay. Just let me explain the diagram. Now, you understood up to here, right? First, we are getting address object. We are getting address object, and we are getting a person object, where in the person address reference is referring to the address object. Now, when we clone this object, what happens is a new person object will be created with a new copies of primitives, string, and wrapper classes. With the new copies of primitives, strings, and wrapper classes. The new copy of primitives and strings and wrapper classes will be there, but if the attribute is not a primitive or not a string or not a wrapper class, then what happens is a new copy will not be created. The new reference will be created which refers to the existing one. Only a new reference will be created which refers to the existing object. If it is not a primitive, not a string, and not a wrapper class, a new copy will not be created. A new reference will be created which refers to the existing object. Now, this is P1 and this is P2. Now, if I change P1 dot address dot street name to Lingampalli, so P1 dot address dot street name is changed from Gachibowli to Lingampalli. Then, what is P2 dot address dot street name? Will you give Gachibowli or Lingampalli? Definitely it will be the same, just because the address object is being shared by both P1 and P2. Understood? Understood? Everybody? What's it? Is it confusing or everybody? Okay? If it is a primitive or a string or a wrapper class, definitely when cloning, when we perform the cloning, a new copy will be created in each object. But if it is other than a primitive or a string or a wrapper class, a new copy will not be created, a new reference will be created, and new reference also will be referring to the existing object. Okay? So now let me change the values in the child. Now I am not changing the parent, now I am changing the values of the child. I am changing the values of the child. So let me see, will it be reflected in the parent or not? Will it be reflected? Yes or no? The changes done through the child object, are those changes reflected in the parent?
No.
Address will be reflected just because. Okay, now we have changed. Did we change the address of the using the child reference or the parent reference? Using the child reference, we have changed the address. But whether we use the parent reference or the child reference, they are referring to the same object. So the changes done using the child reference are reflected in the parent, as well as the changes done through parent references are reflected in the child. Then, if that is the case, the generated copy will be a shallow copy. Okay, if that is the case, then the generated copy is said to be a shallow copy. Okay, if the changes done through parent are reflected in the child, or the changes done through child are reflected in the parent, then the generated copy is said to be a shallow copy. Now, is this object created, is this a 100% shallow copy? Is this clone created, or is the copy created a 100% shallow copy? No, just because we have both deep elements as well as shallow elements. It's not a 100% deep as well as 100% shallow. It contains both deep elements as well as shallow elements. Deep elements means primitive strings and wrapper classes. Other than deep elements, everything is a shallow element. Okay? If we have a shallow element in a class, then the created copy will be a shallow copy. If we have shallow elements, then it will be called as a shallow copy. If we don't have any shallow elements, then only it will be called as a deep copy. If at least one shallow element is there, understood, right? What is a deep element and what is a shallow element? Deep element means either attribute is primitive or string or wrapper class, then that element is called as a deep element. Okay, that attribute is said to be a deep element. If the attribute is not among these three things, then it will be called as a shallow element. If there is at least one shallow element, then the created copy is said to be a shallow copy. If 100% are deep elements, then the copy is said to be a deep copy. Understood? If 100% are deep elements, then the created copy is said to be a deep copy. If at least one member is a shallow element, then the copy is said to be a shallow copy. Understood? Everybody? No. A big question arises. When and why we need to override clone method? When we need to override clone method? In general, we override clone method to obtain a deep copy even we have shallow elements. We override clone method to obtain a deep copy. That means the changes done through parent should not be reflected in the child. The changes done to child should not be reflected in the parent. That's a deep copy, right? To obtain a deep copy, even we have shallow elements. To obtain a deep copy, even there are shallow elements. To obtain a deep copy, even there are shallow elements. We override the clone method. To obtain a deep copy, even there are shallow elements, we override the clone method. Got it? Now, let me try to override the clone method. This I am overriding the clone method. And first what I do is I'll get the clone object. First I'll get the clone object using clone method. Just because again and again I need to copy the, let's consider like we have 10 deep elements. For all the deep elements I need not to again copy the values. So it will be done by the clone method, so I execute the clone method. I'll execute the clone method of the object class first. I'll execute the clone method of the object class first. Otherwise, not void or let me see. Sorry, it's not void. Let me make it person. Just let me test it. So first I'll create a clone of the existing object, okay, using the superclass clone method. The object class clone method, I will create a clone of the existing object. So if we use superclass clone method, what happens? I need not to copy the deep elements. See, if I create object myself, what happens? Let's consider like there are 10 deep elements. Again, let's consider like there is already an existing object. Here I have created a new object. Now, in this object there are 10 deep elements. What I need to do? Again and again I need to copy for ID, name, age, height. Like that I need to copy all the deep elements, which is not required. So, that can be done by the superclass clone method. Okay, that can be done by the superclass clone method. What I'll do is, after cloning, I'll create a new object for all the shallow elements. First, what I'll do is I'll clone the existing object using the object class clone method, so that a copy will be created. Then what I'll do is I'll create a new object for all the shallow elements by sending the existing values. Comma, street name, door number. Okay, first I'll clone the existing object. Okay, just please see here and I'll explain it in the diagram again. Okay, first what I'll do is I'll clone the existing object using the object class clone method. So a new person class object will be created. Okay, and what I'll do is for all the shallow elements I'll create new objects. There are 10 shallow elements, I'll create new 10 objects. Okay, now I have created address object, but the object content should be same as the existing object. The same, the street name should be the same, and the door number also should be the same. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the existing objects, address, street name, and address, door number. So what I'll do is again I'll set the address with the newly created object. I'll set the address with the newly created object, and I'll return the object. This is how I can override the clone method. Let me see it step by step. Now in the clone method, what we are doing? What is the first step? Let's consider that this is my existing object. ID name an object where first principally the number is 1-2/3. Okay, this is my person object, right? Which is being referred by P1. And what I am doing is I am executing the clone method. P1 get clone person we will call the clone method. Okay, I am executing P1 get clone person and get clone person we will call the clone method. And in the clone method, what I am doing first, I am executing super.clone. I am executing super.clone method. Okay, if we execute super.clone method, let us see. And if you execute super.clone method, what happens? If you execute super.clone method, okay, a new object will be created. Okay, a new object will be created. Super.clone means the object class clone method. Okay, a new object will be created. A new object will be created with ID as content, name as Ravi, address as, this will be pointing to. Now, for the first statement, what happens? For the first statement, what happens? But what is getting an object? It's getting a new object with the same. 1 second. P2 HTTP. Setup? Set address, we are trying to refer through the set address is not right. How will you compile first? But why this compile? Huh? Sorry. It was a mistake on my side. That's fine. So, first step what I am doing? The first step what I am doing is I am creating a clone object using the object class clone. If you use object class clone, what happens? It will create a new object for person and it will load all the deep elements with a specific copy of values, and for shallow elements what it will do? It will refer to the existing object. This is what we have seen earlier. Now, in the next step, what we are doing? For all the shallow elements, we create new objects. And what I am doing is I am creating new address object. Okay? I am creating new address object. Okay? A new address object. What are the values? P dot address dot sleep. Okay? Now, P is referring here. What is P dot address dot sleep? That's it. So, see here, P is the clone object, right? P is referring to the clone object. Then where P dot address dot street name, what is the value? That's it. So, the new object, street name will be that's it. And for new object, the roll number will be 1, 2, 3. Now this is a newly created object. What is the reference of the newly created object? What is the reference of the newly created object? ADG. So, ADG will be the reference of the newly created object. Okay? Understand after this? Just because I am setting the values, street name and node number of the existing object, new object also will have the same values as the existing object. Now, next what I am doing, P dot address equal to ADG. Now, where P is referring to the parent object or the child object? P is referring to the parent or the child object? So, if you are not getting it, just please raise a query that I am not getting. If you are done with the understand, right? See, now P is referring to the parent object or the child copy object. P is referring to the child copy object. So, now what I am doing is P dot address equal to ADG. Now, here this address will be the address equal to ADG. That means where ADG is referring, there this address will be referred. So, this address will be referred. Now, this object will be returned. This object will be returned to the calling space. From where we are calling this? Here. Sorry, from where we are calling this? Here. From where we are calling this? This is being called from get clone person. And the get clone person, what we are doing? After executing get clone person, we are assigning the get clone person to P. That means where P is referring to the same object. Even P2 also will just because just what we are doing, P2 equal to get clone person, and this clone object will be referred by the now if I change P2 dot address dot street name, where it will refer? Will it refer to the first object or the second address object? Therefore, we can put some like that. Now, will it be reflected back in the parent address? Will it be reflected in the parent address? No. If I change address, it will be reflected only in the change address. It will not be reflected in the address. So, in this way, even we are having shallow elements, we are creating a deep problem. We are creating a discharge problem. This is a discharge element and this is a discharge element. These two doesn't have any relation. In this way, we are creating a deep coupling even we have shallow elements. To do this, we go for overriding the clone method. Understood? What is clone method? What is the exception type clone method? What are the different types of copies available? When a shallow copy is created, when a deep copy is created, and how we can apply deep copy even we have shallow elements. Understood, everybody? Just try to practice these things. We can understand it. Just keep these diagrams in mind so that we can understand it better. Understood? Now, let's find out for the day, and tomorrow we'll discuss this. Okay? Actually, we were supposed to discuss some more methods about the object class. See, we have still some more methods. I'll list out the methods in the object class. I'll list out the remaining methods in the object class. First is toString equals hash code clone. Those are 4 methods. And first method is public string toString public boolean equals, which takes a object public int hash code, which is not protected object clone, which is not there is a class named class get class finalize wait notify all. These are the 9 methods present in the object class. Already we have discussed the first 4 methods. Already we have discussed about the first 4 methods. Okay? And we will discuss the last 3 methods in multi-threading. Without the knowledge of multi-threading, it's not correct to discuss the last 3 methods. These last 3 methods are supposed to be used in multi-threading. Wait, notify and notify all. We have a concept named multi-threading. At that point, we'll discuss what is wait, what is notify, and what is notify all, why they are used. And even finalize is also discussed while discussing about garbage collection, which even will come in the multi-threading. This finalize will be discussed while discussing garbage collection, which will come under multi-threading. So, this get class, what it will do means, it will return the class object. The class object will have the information about the class. What is the class? What is the package structure? What is the name? Okay, what are the methods? And what are the attributes present in the class? It's not of that much important. It's not that much important. The get class is not that much important. ToString equals hash code and clone, these are pretty much important. But get class is not that much important. But what get class method will do means, it will return a class object. A class object. A object to the class java.lang.class. There is a class in java.lang package. Okay, there is a class named class in java.lang package. The get class method will return the class object, and the class object contains all the information about the class. What is the memory allocated to the class? What are the static members in the class? What are the non-static members in the class? What are the constructors available in the class? Okay, what are the methods available in the class? All that information will be present in the class object. All the meta information about the class will be present in the class object, the java.lang.class object. So we use execute the get class to get the java.lang.class object, which contains the whole information about the class. But this is not that much important. And these methods are important, but we'll discuss them while discussing multi-threading. If you don't have knowledge about multi-threading, it's not correct to discuss all these things. Okay? And in the next class, we discuss about string. What is string? What are the different things that we need to discuss in string? What are the different methods available in string? Okay? And these strings are also important for written tests as well as interviews. Okay? We'll discuss about them in depth. Do you want to note it down? Do you want to note down methods of object class? If anybody wants to note down methods, just they can note down, otherwise